All right, welcome back to Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I'm the host, Chad Everett Broshears, and today's conversation is about judgment. Oh, now again, I'm coming to you from a place of curiosity, seeking more insight, and to join in other people's communications in a way that we can explore and find out a little bit more of the depth of what we're doing. Far too much of our life we seem to spend kind of going with things, not necessarily having our own viewpoints or necessarily having our own critical analysis of what we're going through. So constantly we hear things about judgment as another piece of the insight about the way people live. I know that there's a specific gym out there that a lot of us have heard of that talks about judgment free, but then they also talk about, we're not taking the lunks, or we're not taking the meatheads, those individuals. That's an immediate contradiction of the idea of judgment. Just an example, that is not the purpose of this video, is to kind of point that out at that particular gym. It's more of what are we really saying when we say these things? Like, I don't judge. Yes, you do. Oh, well, I'm not here to judge. Yes, you are. It's what we're really trying to say is, I'm not here to judge you negatively, although you possibly will. Things about judgment is, we use judgment to help place people in our life in a way that they either fit or they don't fit. Sorry, I got notices popping up on my phone that are distracting. So we do judge, but it's just to be honest with yourself. What kind of judgment are you making? Now, when you go to court and you go before a judge, and let's say it's civil court, you're in court with another person that's, you're suing or they're suing or something, right? The judge has to make a decision, and it either is going to be judged in your favor or against your favor. Is the most common judgments. Both people are being judged. One's being judged desirably, the other one's undesirably, or in favor or out of favor. So what we're doing is we're confusing people by saying, I don't judge. You have to. You have to, in order to establish placement in your life and in their life. It's not a negative. It's the negative judgments that we actually have issues with. That's the one that we have the society pushing away from. What is good judgment? What's bad judgment? So as far as that goes, it's just being honest about it. Now, if I want to call somebody a friend, I have to judge them to be a friend. If I want to call somebody an enemy, I have to judge them to make them an enemy. If I want to have somebody just sit in a position where they're not an enemy or a friend, I still have to judge them for that. So it's just to create clarity about what it is that we're saying. Some people may say, these are just, they're just the linguistic values of, I forgot the word off the top of my head, semantics. And they say that this is just semantics. Semantics matter. Definitions matter. Linguistics matter. It's mental structuring matters. So if we're going to say, hey, I'm not judging you, or I'm not here to judge, okay, you just don't necessarily understand the full depth of what judgment is. That's it. Think a little bit deeper about it, and you'll probably get a deeper understanding of what that actually means. I have plenty of friends that I've had this conversation with, and it does have a great degree of enlightenment, because we polarize the term, the word judgment. We polarize it, and we make it mean that it's a negative. It's not. You still have to do it. You will do it. It's just, if you feel like you have to be positive about everything all the time, you're probably going to think that judgment's negative, therefore it's something you shouldn't do. But if you think about the idea of how many people say that money is the root of all evil, money is bad, is what it's saying when you say that. But we don't have a society that doesn't have a currency value. Money's not bad, money's not evil. It's the pursuit of power and narcissism that creates the evil or the evil concept to money, because money is the thing that we can put the blame on because it's simple, versus the complexity of the human mind coming to the conclusion that money is the thing of all justification, the justifiers of the behavior. So it's the same concept. Money's not the root of all evil. Judgment's not a bad thing. It's a thing about placing people in your life. If you want to be able to place people in your life in a way that creates a better sense of value to you, then by all means, start understanding what you're saying to people when you're saying it. So, to add in a few other neat little pieces, if you will, preferably I'd like to create something that makes better, clearer communication. So if you say I don't judge, immediately I know that you do, you just don't necessarily understand the fuller depth of it, or perhaps you're just using that as a turn of phrase or statement of phrase that's not really thought out. It just flows in the context of the conversation. You're using an auto-programmed conversation response without really a deep thinking process. It's not a negative. I'm not putting that out there that it's a bad thing. I just see that it's more of an unconscious or a autopilot type of conversation that you're not fully present in. You may be using that in the statement placement keeper so that you can think through the next thoughts in the conversation of what you want to say, but that's something that's been established already, that it's going to take up, the next 10 seconds of the conversation so that you can think the next pieces out while you say it. I'm not here to judge, but in your mind, you're considering what kind of judgment is the next statement, or what kind of statement will the next statement represent a judgment. You may be going through that process, and it's common. Usually when people do have the auto responses in the conversation, they're jumping ahead in their mind to what they want to say next, and that's just a placekeeper for that. It's not a bad thing or anything. It's just a lot of our communication seems to be on an unconscious level, where we really don't have a lot of thought about it. We just think it, or we just say it and don't really think much. And again, I'm not positioning this as if it's a bad thing. I'm positioning it as a way that human beings interact. And if we want to be able to have more deeper, longer term, meaningful relationships, these are the details that can help create them. Versus you fit for now because we seem to see eye to eye, which if we were to look at the political divide right now, you would see this. You fit my context now because we seem to have the same conversational topic piece that lands or lasts while we have the discussion, but as soon as a topic comes up that conflicts our views, like politics currently has, where people are abandoning their relationships because they don't see the idealisms lining up with each other, the ideologies lining up with each other. It's either you're for BLM or you're against BLM. There's no gray or middle ground. It's one or the other, and then there's the I am closer to you because we align, or I'm further from you because we don't. Now we have a division between the two of us. So it's what we do when we don't put a lot of thought into things. We fall into these categories of thinking versus the full totality of thinking, or the overall element of thinking. So we use placekeepers like judgment and the idea of what's the right or wrong about thinking. But we really aren't putting a whole lot of time into thinking. We're just saying what's right or wrong about thinking. And we're policing each other with this moral position that morally you should think this way, and if not, you're judged to be bad or judged to be wrong. And then still in the same concept, in the total thinking process, when you say I don't judge, that means you don't judge ever, and it's not true. So it's one of those things that create congruency of what you say to what you do, and that'll create more of a sincerity as well as an authenticity about who you are. You're likely to have longer lasting, meaningful relationships. But if not, there's going to be a lot of the single serving type of relationships. As soon as there's a confliction inside of the ideologies, then all of a sudden the person's disposable, and or you become disposable. It reduces the depth of relationships, which also seems to reduce the depth of living experiences. And it kind of seems like you're constantly playing a game of tribalism, and what tribe do you belong to? My thing is that I don't care what you believe today, and I don't care what you believe tomorrow. I care who you are as a person, your beliefs don't always have to necessarily mean that's who you are, because beliefs change over time as life experiences give us other opportunities to see life differently. Oh, judgment is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a way of establishing who you have in your life and who you're going to allow to give you space in your life. Oh, that's pretty much the majority of what judgment is. So as far as that goes, consider that the way you communicate with other people makes a difference for how they see you, not only how they see you, but how they react back to you, who you are to them, and it gives you the mirror of who you are in the world. Now, sometimes it's an ugly experience when you realize that other people see you differently than you see yourself, and that may also have you abandon that relationship because you just don't want to face the reality of who you are, or you say, you just don't know me. Oh, judgment's interesting. There's a lot of things that are really interesting to me about how we behave as human beings and interact with one another. Oh, I will say that as far as my experiences in life go, I prefer order, I prefer structure, I prefer, the reward for work, that kind of thing. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to make you wrong because you have yourself in a different position. And just because you're judged today doesn't mean that it's a conviction tomorrow. Oh, that's where the righteousness comes in for people. And I really don't live with a lot of righteousness. Oh, I encourage other people to live without so much righteousness as well. But the whole idea of righteousness is you have something that you believe so strongly that you're unwilling to allow other people to redirect your belief, as well as your belief needs to supersede theirs. Now, and that can be a dangerous place because now you're telling other people how to live, and that's why it can be a turnoff to some people. But if you want to change things in the world, you do have to have some degree of that, of righteousness, but it doesn't mean necessarily that your entire life is righteous, or that the entirety of you needs to be whatever your belief is that is righteous. That does turn people off, and it can turn you into a different person the longer it persists. It takes over. Ideas don't have people. People don't have ideas. Ideas have people on a common basis. So, it's a pretty interesting thing. But it comes by way of different micro variables like judgment, things like that. So, I'm not here to tell people how to live their life. My goal is to just help create more insight, more perspectives that could give you the aha moment that I've had many, many, many aha moments in my life and in conversation. And usually there's not any conversation that I have with anybody that doesn't have an aha moment that gives something else that's a fruit of life. The insights that can make a change. So that's it for today. I don't have a whole lot to go into when it comes to judgment overall, just to give a different perspective. As a recap, if you go to court, a judge's job is to pass judgment. Their job is to create a what's right or what's wrong. And at the end, two people get judged. It's just somebody walks away typically happier. One person typically walks away not so happy. We do it in our life all the time. It's confusing to tell people you don't judge and then you judge in front of them. As soon as you say something about the other person, or you say something about another person that's not doing what's right or wrong in your view, that's judgment. However you want to cut it down the middle, or however you want to cut it, it's still judgment. You say, I don't like that article of clothing, it's judgment. I do like that article of clothing, that's judgment. I really like you as a person. You've judged them to like them. I don't like you as a person. You judge them not to like them. My goal is to not make all these judgments permanent. It's more of, maybe for now it just doesn't fit. Doesn't mean that for the rest of your life the person doesn't fit. I do caution against making permanency to those judgments. People change over their life, and it aggravates the hell out of everybody whenever they find out somebody else has judged them into a corner to make them think that they're not allowed to see things differently. Because you don't want somebody else to make you feel like you can't see the world differently in time. So why are we doing that to all these other people without actually putting it back onto ourselves? That's actually on the scale for narcissism. There's a spectrum, by the way. It's a scoring system before you can actually be a narcissist. In psychology, you can have traits. We all have traits. It's just how many of those traits build up to the point that they actually become like a clinical diagnosis of narcissism. So we exhibit a lot of those behaviors. It's just that we don't score high enough to actually be a narcissist. We also score on the neurotic level as well, but that's not one that's popular to talk about, neuroticism. It's more popular to talk about narcissism because it's easier to be a victim of narcissism than it is to be a victim of neuroticism. So that's another conversation for another time. All right, guys and gals, thank you so much for checking in. Please share this video with people in your life that you know will benefit or take something out of it. Put in the comment section what you've taken out of this. And just know that we're all in this together. It's a great thing to have a lot of mirrors around us so that we can see who we are to others. If you could just start looking at it that way, their interactions, their reactions to you is they're mirroring back who you are to them. Instead of making them wrong for the honest description of who you are, perhaps it's time to actually consider that that is who you are. And what can you do about it? Because that is who you are to them. Even if it's unwarranted, it's still who you are to them. And it's a matter of you proving to them that you're not that person, instead of writing it off and then going on a campaign to make them look bad because they made you feel like you look bad. All right. That's it for Judgment. This is Chad Everett Brochures. I'm the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I appreciate your time. Thank you for checking in. Appreciate all of you that have watched this all the way from beginning to end. Do comment in the comment section what you're taking from it. And also like, subscribe, share. Hit the bell notification so you know when I'm going live. The schedule for these live broadcasts and streams will come out in the near future as my schedule outside of this continues to stabilize now that we're kind of going back to a norm. Other than that, I appreciate your time today. Remember, we're all in this together. Let's create something fantastic. All right, until next time, enjoy.